Stand by to initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark, a.k.a. Derringer. Today is Sunday, February 17th, and you are listening to episode 196 of the Instant Action Podcast, your weekly source for Planetside news and information. As always, I'm brought to you by great listeners like you via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. So, if you guys have been like me, has it been 99.9% Apex Legends this past week and 0.1% Planetside 2. Yeah, I've been very lax in my Planetside 2 playing, and sorry about that. I've even put aside my Planetside Arena testing, and obviously we'll know why in a second as I get into this week's show. But yeah, I've really been sucked in by Apex Legends, and I'm horrible at it. I'm still horrible at it. I don't know why I'm so bad at it, but it's still a lot of fun, and that's really been taking up the majority of my time lately. So if you haven't seen me in Planetside 2, it's because I've been in Apex Legends. And if you want to find me in Apex Legends, go ahead and load up Origin and just look for the Derringer. You'll know it's me. You'll know exactly who it's me if you look at my little icon of a little NC guy with a little black cat next to it. That's me. So definitely feel free to add me on Origin if you guys want to. Again, the Derringer. So that's enough about me. And I know you guys, this isn't an Apex Legends podcast. So what's in store for this week's show? Well, first, I have to talk about the latest developments regarding Planetside Arena and how it's been delayed again. After that, I want to talk about the Valentine's Day goodies that are back on sale in the Planetside 2 Depot. Then I want to talk about the latest PTS update, which I'm personally excited for. And then finally, if you hate how Vanguard handles, have I got a video for you to watch. All that, plus some listener email and the return of Veteran's Voice. So strap in as we hot drop into another episode of the Instant Action Podcast. So first up this week is the Planetside Arena development letter that got dropped on us. When did this land on us? This was back on February 15th, so that would have been just this past Friday after Valentine's Day, and it comes from none other than the entire Planetside Arena team, but in reality, it's actually coming from Andy Seitz, but that's neither here nor there. I'm going to read to you what the development letter is if you have not seen it. So the title of it is Development Letter Planetside Arena Heads to PlayStation 4, and also the subtitle is The Team Revises PC Launch Plans for Simultaneous Console Release in Summer 2019 and hones in on massive scale arena-based modes. So the letter itself says, first off, a huge thank you to everyone who participated in our closed beta these past few weeks. Your suggestions have been crucial in providing our team with direct and meaningful gameplay feedback. We can't even begin to express our appreciation for all of the time and effort you've spent helping us test and improve the game. After much consideration, we've decided to postpone the current PC-only release date and launch simultaneously across PC and PlayStation 4 this summer. We've always envisioned Planetside Arena as a way for players to experience the epic gameplay of the Planetside universe through fast-paced, combined arms, combat, and massive-scale multiplayer modes. We believe that delivering the most polished version of Planetside Arena that meets these expectations on both platforms outweighs any other consideration. In light of our revised launch plan, we are refunding all Planetside Arena pre-orders. We've committed to continuing and expanding our beta testing program as we ramp up for our multi-platform launch this summer, and we'll share more details soon. You can visit Steam for more information on refunds. Thank you all again for your amazing support. We're very excited about the future and can't wait to see everyone back in the arena, the Planetside Arena team. So, when I read this, the first thing that I thought is that Apex Legends may have just saved Planetside Arena. Now, why do I say that? It's because I think, as I said on last week's show, if Planetside Arena had launched as they originally wanted at the end of January 29th, and then a week or two later, Apex Legends had launched as a free-to-play title, Planetside Arena would have been crushed. It would have just been gone. People would be more likely to play Apex Legends, which is a free-to-play game where you don't have to drop any money on it. Also, since I was playing the beta, I feel like Apex Legends is a much more polished and complete game. And, in this developer's letter itself, they say the same thing. That is basically not ready for prime time yet. And I think everybody playing it agrees that Planetside Arena is just not ready for prime time. I mean, we never even got to test the massive clash mode of the game, which was the biggest selling point for me out of anything else. So I really think the launch of Apex Legends saved Planetside Arena more than anything. Also, everybody's feedback regarding Planetside Arena that we gave to the team, I think, is another thing that may have helped save Planetside Arena, because in my mind, what Planetside Arena needs to do is differentiate itself heavily from the rest of the Battle Royale game types that are out there. Obviously we had H1Z1 started off, and then we had PUBG kind of take over from that. Then we had Fortnite take over from that. And now we have Apex Legends taking over from that. So there's definitely a boom and bust cycle for all of these Battle Royale games. And for Planetside Arena to be the next one that's delaying things for a future release, that is very smart on their end. Now, I'm a little concerned that they're only going to be supporting PS4. Now, there's nothing wrong with the PlayStation 4. I own a PlayStation 4. Planetside 2 plays on a PlayStation 4. But if they're really going to be pausing release of this game until sometime this summer, and granted, summer, for all intents and purposes, begins in June, but runs straight through the end of August. So, I mean, if I'm looking at the outside end of this, and Planetside Arena is releasing sometime at the end of August, then just releasing it on the PlayStation 4 is dumb. You need to release this on the PlayStation 4, and you need to release it on the Xbox One at the exact same time. There's no reason in today's day and age to release it only on 2 of the 3 major platforms. And yes, I understand Switch is a pretty big platform as well, and if they could release that on the Switch also, that would be cool. But right now I'm looking at just the big 3 that I consider: PC, PS4, Xbox One. To have not mentioned Xbox One at all in this letter, saying that they're just going to PlayStation 4 is not, it's not bright. And I'm not here to shit on the developers of Planetside Arena, because I don't know how difficult it is to port a game to Xbox One. But they would be, basically cutting your nose off to spite your face by not also including it on the Xbox One. So I hope that this is just the initial comments that they're going to release it on PC and PS4, and that's because we know from talking to folks like Drew, who says they have actually PS4 boxes in their developer boxes in their cubicles, so they can test stuff on Planetside 2 on the PS4. I'm assuming maybe they don't have an Xbox One box that they can test these types of games on. But if that's the case, get on the phone with friggin' Microsoft and do it. It's just the wrong move to exclude Xbox One players from a quote-unquote major next release of the Planetside franchise. So I'm really hoping that we're going to hear something about that in the coming days, weeks. Just it's not the right move. Now, the next portion of this is that they're refunding everybody who has pre-ordered the game. That is huge. I don't think people have realized how big that actually is, because anybody who's pre-ordered that, when you do a pre-order, the money's already gone into the coffers for the most part of the company that's doing it. So I imagine they're taking a massive hit on this by refunding this, and also Steam has to get their cut. So I wonder if they're just eating whatever the Steam cut is, and that can't be good for them. But regardless, it's huge that they're planning on refunding everybody. Now, granted, I think I paid with a credit card, and unfortunately, most likely, I'm going to see this as a refund back into my Steam wallet, which is not really what I want. But if that's what happens, that's what happens, and then I can probably just let the funds sit there, and then when the actual pre-order spins up again, I can just respend that money on Planetside Arena. But for Daybreak Games, that's got to suck that Steam is going to get 2 tastes out of your game. So I'm sure it wasn't a light decision that they made regarding refunding all the Planetside Arena pre-orders. But I also wonder if they expected to see a huge group of people leaving the game, refunding immediately once this was actually announced. So at least this delays it and lets them do the refund on their terms rather than the players' terms themselves. But that is a good mood. So all in all, I think this is probably a highly intelligent decision from the Planetside Arena team and Daybreak Games. Again, if they tried to release this alongside Apex Legends and not have the massive clash mode, you're going to get slaughtered by Apex Legends, and you're not going to make any money out of this game whatsoever. You're going to have your diehard folks that get in, but honestly, you want to get every human player possible. You want to see the numbers that Apex Legends has. And part of me almost wonders if they're going to go the exact same route and be like Apex Legends and make it free to play when it launches as well on all the platforms, and just really make that cash shop as big as Apex Legends cash shop is. I'm not going to lie. Once I saw this email, I had basically $40 that I was no longer spending on Planetside Arena. I dropped it into Apex Legends to help support them because I'm happy with the game that they're playing. And I wouldn't be surprised if I do the exact same thing when Planetside Arena launches. So I hope that's what the devs are looking for as well. So I know I've kind of been rambling on about this topic, but this is kind of the biggest news that we've got in Planetside right now, and is surprising to a lot of people. But I do think that this ultimately could be the move that saves Planetside Arena and makes it a game that a lot of people want to play. But with that, let's move on to some Planetside 2 news, because we've got some Valentine's Day stuff and a PTS update to talk about. So let's move on to topic number 2 this week. So like I said, next up, Valentine's Day 2019 has come and gone. I hope that you got your special someone chocolates or flowers, or at least a card. I mean, come on, guys. Ladies too. But in Planetside 2, all the Valentine's Day cosmetics and stuff are back in game. So if you have been kind of sitting on the fence and missed out on purchasing all of these last year, they're back. But in addition to that, the bigger news is we have double XP in-game for everyone, running from February 14th all the way through February 18th, and that's President's Day in the U.S. So this is a great way to play the game and get your double XP, and don't forget, during double XP, drop as many bounties as you can. So aside from that, what are the various items that you can purchase in-game? Well, first off, they've brought back the Hearts Camo Bundle for $14.99 Daybreak Cash. You're going to get the Red Hearts Weapon Camo, the Tarnished Hearts Camo, Loyal Hearts, Indar Hearts, Amrish, Esamir, Broken Hearts, Hassan Hearts, and the Gilded Hearts Weapon Camo, which is only available as part of that bundle. They also brought back the Cupid Horn Bundle, also for $14.99 Daybreak Cash, the Ant Cupid Horn, which is only available on PC right now, The Flash, Harasser, Lightning, Sunderer, Magrider, Prowler, Vanguard, Scythe, Mosquito, Reaver, Valkyrie, Liberator, Galaxy, all those are going to get their own horn as part of this bundle. So if you wanted one, there you go. They've also brought back the Star-Crossed bundle for $14.99 Daybreak Cash. This is your dual crossbows. You're going to get the Heartstring and the Black Heart. In addition, inside this bundle, you also get the Chrome Heart Hood ornament. And then I think the thing that a lot of people were excited for last year, and I know that I purchased it, this is the AM7 XOXO Archer. It's also $14.99 Daybreak Cash. You'll note every single one is $14.99. This is the one that has the pink phosphorescent on it, I guess is the best way to say it. And when you shoot somebody with it, little hearts pop up on all around them. And it also works towards the Exceptional 2 directive if you wanted to get that done. And the little addition to this little event is that they say that if love isn't really your thing, you can still find a way to light up the battlefield, because on Monday, February 18th, you'll be able to purchase the flare guns and Patriot camo again. So if you missed out on those during the 4th of July event last year, this is an extra day to go and purchase those if you've wanted to. So that's my obligatory go buy stuff in the depot topic for this week's show. So to get out there and support the game with some great Valentine's Day stuff while earning a lot of double XP. But with that, I'm going to throw it over to Romus with this week's Veteran's Voice.
There will be no Veteran's Voice this week. That's because this is what I sound like. Damn it, Bloggins, where's my tea? Back to you, Derringer.
Romus, please rest that voice and get better, buddy, because we need some more good veterans' voices from you. And Romus, listen closely to this week's mailbag, because there's a little note for you in there. But moving along to topic number 3, we also had a PTS update on the on Planetside 2 this week, and that dropped on February 12th. And as I hinted at the opening of this week's show, I'm pretty excited for this PTS update, actually. So I know you're sitting there in your car, or as someone like Holiday in Cambodia said a couple weeks ago, sitting in your acid truck. You may be asking yourself, why does Derringer think this is a good PTS update? Well, because the new Empire-specific carbines have been released. There are 3 new carbines, 1 for each Empire. They're still a work in progress. They lack finished attachments, polish. They're going to receive some tuning adjustments prior to release, but they are out there on PTS for you to play around with if you would like to. So the first one has been named the VEC Horizon, and this is for the Vanu Sovereignty. It says the controllable Horizon carbine fires a horizontal fan of 3 pellets from the hip and a tighter vertical fan of 3 pellets while aiming down sight. So you figure if you're just firing it from the hip, they're firing out in kind of a cone horizontally, but if you're aiming down sight, they're firing vertically, which is kind of an interesting change. I'm kind of interested in playing around with that. I haven't had a chance to load up the PTS and play around with these yet, but that one's kind of interesting. It feels a little bit like, and I hate to talk about Apex Legends again, but the triple take in Apex Legends, which I like a lot. But going back to these, the next one is the MGRC1 Charger, available to the new conglomerate. And it says the Charger has a higher rate of fire than the typical NC carbine and has increased damage for the first few shots of every fresh reload. So it makes me feel like you're going to be reloading the Charger an awful lot, because the first few bullets are going to do increased damage than after the other ones. And the third and final one is the MGC1 Kindred for the Terran Republic. The notes say that the Kindred is a hard-hitting carbine with a short period of increased fire rate every trigger squeeze. So this tells me that you're going to want to burst with this particular carbine rather than going full auto on this thing. Obviously, it's not going to have a burst mode built into it. You're going to have to manually burst it on your own. But again, I'm a huge engineer player, as you guys know it. Carbines are kind of the engineer's staple gun, so getting some new ones into the game makes me excited. I'm looking forward to playing around with the Horizon, and hopefully we'll see a quicker polish run on these so that they can come to live sooner rather than later. But that's not the only thing that was released in this PTS update, because the new Refine and Refuel Continent event has also landed on the PTS. Now, until now, we've only had to speculate what this continent event is, but now we actually have some real news on what this is. So it's a test and work in progress. So just remember that if you're on the PTS playing around with this. But at the start of the event, 2 refineries will spawn toward the center of the map. There will always be 2 available on the map at all times. You are tasked with harvesting cordium and then depositing it into the refineries. When a refinery is full, it will blast off into orbit, and a new one will spawn at another location. The faction with the most refined cordium at the end of the event will receive access to the Wasp prototype air vehicle. Now, the Wasp, we know from watching it on a stream, is a Valkyrie variant, which has a nose-mounted mining laser. It has cordium-fueled afterburners, and it also has pilot-operated dual rocket pods. You'll be able to spawn this at the warp gate of the victorious faction. So, again, the Wasp is very, very, very work in progress right now. They've only showed off a few moments of it on a stream once, and now it's out there for you to actually play with if we win the Continent Alert. But just kind of an interesting variant of the Valkyrie itself. Not too bad. I mean, dual rocket pods added onto it that the pilot can operate. It's not too bad. I'd love to play around with that. So again, we finally know what's going on with the Refine and Refuel Continent event. Next, they also added some join combat revision to the PTS itself. It's restructured, and they hope that it no longer fails to send players off when the countdown completes. It's also now working on a priority system. First, it's going to look for ideal population and balance fights. If none of those exist, it will simply look for balanced fights. If none of those exist, it will send the player to attack an enemy frontline base, even if that base is empty. In addition, it now makes decisions on how to send players to fight. First, it's going to look for a hard spawn at the chosen location. If there is no hard spawn, it's going to look for a soft spawn. And if none of those exist, it's going to drop you in on a drop pod. Now, in the future, they'd also like to sort players into unlocked vehicles with open gunner seats, but they're not there yet. But they do think that restructuring it in this way is going to allow them to deliver players to an ideal experience wherever they're available. They said that then they're going to focus on intensifying balanced fights that currently exist while helping generate new fights along the front lines. And that these changes are going to work hand in hand with the spawn system revamp, which they also added in this week's PTS. So let's talk about the spawn system revamp for a few moments. Now, this was also something that was teased on a recent dev live stream. So the goal with this revamp, and again, this is only on the PTS, it's not on live yet, so just listen. So they've made some large revisions to the current system. So currently, they feel the live spawn system is too restrictive, and it doesn't necessarily point players in any particular direction. And as a result, if you're a veteran player like I am, you hop around the map, you go from spawn point to spawn point to spawn point in order to reach a fight that you actually want to participate in. You're also discouraged from leaving your current lane, which contributes to Zergs, which then kind of, head down a lattice. So hopefully these changes will make it better for new players and veterans alike. So basically the new spawn rules are going to work on a priority system, kind of like the Join Combat did. But in the new system, what they consider ideal spawn locations will appear first, and then additional ones will appear after longer wait periods. And it's going to effectively throttle how quickly you can redeploy around the map, but it's still going to give you the option to do so. So priority 1 spawn locations, these are going to have a default spawn timer, and these are going to include the warp gate, because you can always spawn back at the warp gate as a priority. The last spawn point that you used is also default. Spawn beacons are also default. Squad spawnable vehicles are set in the default. Other spawn points within your current region, if that region is not overpopulated, and also allied regions adjacent to an enemy region with less than 12 players in it. And again, these are your default spawn locations, and that's whatever the current spawn timer is, the quick spawn timer. Now, they've talked about priority 2 spawn locations. Now, you've got your standard respawn timer on these, plus a bunch of additional wait time. So these are going to include spawn locations in your current region if your region is overpopulated. Also, allied regions with adjacent enemy territory with less than 96 players and aren't cut off from the lattice, and outfit-owned regions that are not overpopulated and also aren't cut off from the lattice. So these are going to have a little bit longer of a spawn time than the priority 1 spawn locations. Then you've got priority 3 spawn locations, and these are going to have the longest wait time out of all spawns. So these are any allied regions without enemy adjacency and aren't cut off from the lattice. So basically these changes give players the ability so that's basically all of them. Any one that's not in the first 2, but it still has to be an allied region without enemy adjacency. So basically, like I said before, what these changes do is they give you the ability to jump to low populated regions to start moving down lanes with less occupancy. It does prohibit players from redeploying directly into overpopulated regions from outside them, and also slows down the respawn time in overpopulated regions when your last used spawn point is destroyed. Now, the devs have added a lot of they have some flexibility with this system to loosen or clamp down on the rule set, and as people play around with this, they'll make adjustments to kind of get a finalized version before this actually comes to live. So again, I can only describe it so well. There was definitely on one of the last dev live stream that they did, they showed how you could spawn instantly in an area close to you, and then a ring outside of that, it took a little bit longer to spawn to those, and then there was a further ring outside of that that took even longer to get to those. And obviously they'd still be kind of the grayed out green, not, it's just a darker shade of green and hasn't popped, showing that you can respawn on that immediately. And you can see the wait times on the left side of the screen as well, as some of the further away regions are longer and longer. So we'll have to see how this plays out on the PTS before that actually comes to live. There were some other additions, though. First off, for vehicles, we got a new weapon for the Cypher Ether and Mosquito. This is the M202 Worm, spelled W-Y-R-M, so kind of like a dragon. It's an ESF secondary weapon that fires a hard-hitting, slow-moving round at a slow rate of fire. It's a more sustained fire alternative to air-to-air lock-on weaponry, and should be used for hunting large air targets while still having some versatility to defend against enemy ESFs if your aim and prediction is good. So rather than a lock-on, this feels like it's just a slow-moving fire-and-forget-it type weapon. It is still a work in progress, like everything on the PTS, so they're looking for some feedback once you've actually gone and played around with it. It looks like this is going to be your alternative weapon if you're just out there hunting galaxies as a main thing. Also, they made some changes to air-to-air lock-on missiles for the Scythe, Reaver, and Mosquito. First, they've reduced the maneuverability. They also reduced the lock-on time down to 1.5 seconds from 2 seconds, so it's going to lock on quicker. The reload time, however, has been increased from 4 seconds to 6 seconds. If you bump yourself up to rank 5 of the lock-on speed, they've reduced it from 1,000 certs to 500, and that speed cert benefit went from 5, 10, 15, 20% down to 5, 7, 9, and 10%. Also, the lock-on range, the rank 5 cost went from 1,000 down to 500, so another reduction. And the reload speed cert line benefit changed to a flat percent of 5, 7, 8, 9, 10%. And finally, the reload speed cert line cost, it was originally 150, 200, 400, 500, 1,000. It's now 100, 150, 200, 400, 500. So you can see they cut it in half all the way to the end. So the dev notes on this particular one are that these changes are geared toward making air-to-air missiles easily dodgeable by ESFs, while making it difficult but possible for larger air vehicles to avoid as well. In addition, the faster base lock-on speed, along with the longer reload time, makes the weapon a bit easier to use regardless of attachment type, while lowering the maximum damage over time these weapons can put out. Lock-on speed benefit has been reduced so that other options receive more consideration, and we've also touched some of the cert costs to make the weapon attachments more reachable for lower-level players. So really what this is doing is making it so that air-to-air lock-on missiles are not as devastating against for a experienced Scythe Reaver or Mosquito pilot to dodge than they were in the past. Next, there were also some changes to the NS operatives, and these are all just cosmetic changes to them more than anything else. Basically, Araxium armor sets are going to accept decals. You can now unlock and equip proper attachments on the directive weapons. You can earn medals on the directive weapons. They also reward a unique banner. They also added it to the assault weapons. Basically, like I said, they're all little changes that were missing. And they also added that operatives can no longer receive friendly fire while in friendly warp gates. So a little just polish on the NS operatives themselves. And then there were other just miscellaneous changes, fixes, and additions. A good one is when the faction locks a continent, their victory anthem is going to play, and that's not going to be bad. And also, players in a loading screen should no longer appear until their loading screen is dropped. And I think this is more than anything to try and solve the issue of people spawning at Sunderer. I think this is the biggest one. And then kind of being stuck there and not killable because their loading screen is still loading. And I know that's a kind of annoying thing where, people are always knifing somebody who's just sitting there and they can't kill them, or shooting them and they can't kill them because they've been stuck in their loading screen and then haven't moved and they're undamageable. So I think this is what's fixing that. So again, these are all out on the PTS right now. As always, just my PSA here. Daybreak Games wants you to log into the PTS if you're a PC player and try all these things out and provide feedback. With that, let's move on to our fourth and final topic this week. And that last topic, if you followed Wrel on Twitter like I do, you saw that he posted a short little video clip that says, "So I wanted to see what would happen if I gave the Vanguard the physics of a Harasser. Worked out way better than I thought it would." And I'll include a link to it in this week's show notes. You guys can go check it out for yourself if you haven't seen it. Basically, the Vanguard is just whipping around the battlefield. It's going so fast because it's going, basically as fast as not as fast as a Harasser, but it's going quite fast. And it's making little jumps off the ground, and it looks great. And it's very reminiscent, if you guys have YouTubed the M1 Abrams tanks, how fast those things can actually move on the battlefield. The Vanguard feels like a modern-day M1 Abrams tank. I want to see these physics come to Planetside 2 and give them to the Prowler as well, give them to the Lightnings as well, give them to the Vanguard as well. Make it... The tanks just feel so slow and lumbering Granted, maybe you can't put it the exact same physics as Harasser because then, it's just maybe too fast for people to hit with it or something. I don't know. But I like what Wrel has done with it, and I just want to give him props for having the balls to just kind of throw something like this out there and get some feedback on it. I like it. I don't think it could be too broken. I mean, maybe, but how are we going to know unless something like that is played out on the PTS? I'm curious to see what vehicle mains think about something like this. So I welcome anybody's feedback on that. But again, that was just a little fun final fourth topic to talk about this week. So with that, let's move on to housekeeping and wrap up this week's show.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
I coming anyway?
So last week, I had a comment on the show. I guess it was 2 weeks ago at this point, and I completely forgot to read it on this week's show. So first off, Crooked Finger, you have my apologies for forgetting this, and I'm going to cover it right now. So again, Crooked Finger wrote, "Hello, love the podcast, and thank you for publishing for almost 4 years. Keep up the good work. My question is regarding aim and accuracy. I have over 850 hours of gameplay across the past 2 years, but still managed to lose 9 out of 10 1v1 engagements. I've read every scrap of advice on Reddit and watched several dozen YouTube videos on the topic, but I'm really unable to pull these things into practice. I would love to see a split screen video showing gameplay on one side and hand and mouse on the other. I would love to see how a MLG gamer with 40 centimeter, 360 degree sensitivity manages to chain headshots. Do you know of any such video? Thank you." So the short answer, Crooked Finger, is that I really don't know anybody who's pushing out YouTube videos of that, but I do know that there are a handful of players out there. I don't know that I would consider them MLG pro gamers or anything like that, but I know that a few of them actually do a split screen where you can see the keys that they're pressing. I know Dudis Flutus, Dudisfludis, does something like that, so you can actually see the key presses. But I don't know if he actually shows his mouse movement or not. I know you can find him on Twitch. That might be one resource to check out. Other than that, I don't know anybody who does something like that. And I don't know how I'd really translate seeing how somebody moves their mouse into the game itself. I wonder... you made me think about it. That's the one thing. And I did a quick search, and I didn't really find anything. So unfortunately, I don't think I have too much to give you. But again, check out what Dudis Flutus is doing. Again, I know that he shows his key presses. I don't know if he shows his mouse or not, but that might be a first rabbit hole to go down. But regardless, thanks for the note. Next, I got an email from Louie, and Louie wrote, "Hey, Mark, I checked out the NS operatives on PTS a couple weeks ago, and I thought they were pretty cool, but I just have one concern. I'm just afraid after a month or so, when all of the, yay, I'm a robot hype wears off, that it's not going to be utilized that much. I'm not a big faction switcher, so I guess maybe I just don't understand. How is this better/easier than a player just switching to the underpop faction with their already made character, with a bunch of things already unlocked? I suppose working on a new directive tree with a bunch of new items to unlock is pretty cool, but is it enough? Personally, I think that the weapons unlocked as directive rewards should be awarded account-wide. Can you imagine the players flocking to play NSO if that were the case? Is this a system brought into the game to have a couple dozen guys balance out pop, or was it brought to encourage more paid memberships? I have played other factions before, but I don't think I have any alts over BR25. I'm going to need more encouragement to pull away from my VS main. I think some sort of account-wide rewards are the way to go. P.S. Tell Romas to answer his emails." All right, Louie. First up, thanks for the email. I don't know. At first, my thought was the same thing. Is it a way just to push more people to buy membership so that they can play NS operatives? That was my first thought as well. But my other thought is, I know there's quite a few people that have a BR 120 character on all three factions and are kind of looking forward to something like this, so they don't have to just keep switching from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, hopping around trying to find fights. They can just load up an NSO and then not have to continuously switch characters throughout the night, and they can move from one to the next. Granted, that's probably a small pool of people out there, but I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty excited for the NS operatives myself. I mean, maybe it's that yay, I'm a robot hype that you're talking about, but I'm still kind of cool with it. And having all these new directives to work on, kind of psychs me out. Or I guess psychs me up is the better term for that. So, I'm kind of curious for it. But then again, I have alts on all three factions, and they're way over BR25. So maybe I'm just a different player type than you are. But, I think they're cool right now. And, maybe a month or two down the road, we'll have to revisit them once they're live and actually talk about them at that point. And I'll bug Romus about answering his emails as well. But as you heard, he's a little sick right now. So thanks again for the email, Louis. But that's going to be it for this week's show. So how can you get in touch with me or the show? As always, your first stop should be my website, www.instantactionpodcast.com. You can email me like Louis did, instantactionshow@gmail.com. You can call me and leave me a voicemail at 347-4VM4PS2. That's also 347-486-4772. And you can also follow the show on Twitter at InstActPodcast. But in closing, if you've enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on your podcast listening avenue of choice, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere else. Also, feel free to tell your friends and outfit mates about the show. And finally, thanks for listening, and keep spamming that join combat, formerly known as Instant Action button.